And here we are with the fantastic Mr. Figlak. How you doing, my friend? Congratulations again. Winning's getting a bit of a habit now, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, this year it has been very good for me. I'm doing all good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, my friend. Very well. Now, interestingly enough, there's a few things I wanted to sort of go into with this. So, regards of the fights themselves, just take the Oban fight, for example. Obviously, a lot of back and forth anyway, but again, you had a very composed game plan. Like, how was that kind of mix of emotions, but also trying to keep your sport? It's a sport as well as a fight. How did you manage to manage that kind of emotions?
So yeah, obviously with Oban it got a bit personal because I know him from quite a while back. But although it was personal outside of the cage, I know that once I get in there is no emotions for me. I have a job to do, and that is to break my opponent. I don't really get into any emotional state, or no emotions affect me in there. All I kind of think about is that I'm gonna uh, start breaking my opponent down bit by bit until he falls, basically. So in terms of any emotions, when I'm actually in the cage, there is none.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The fact you said that, yeah, I break them, I kill them, that's it, done, no problem.
Yeah.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I mean, that's kind of the point, though. Now, regards of the breaking point, do you have a certain reference point when you know you've got someone's number? Is it like you feel a sort of, you just see them at their face, or is it something you just
Yeah.
know?
You can just see it. You can just see it by their facial expressions, by their eyes, um, and then the things they do. In between rounds, I have a quick look at my opponent and see how he's doing, and I can see that it won't take. Let's say it won't take much longer.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Now, regards of obviously training how you fight and that kind of crossover, is it something you try and impose within reason in training to try and like, okay, I'm going to try and exhaust you, try and break you down, or is it just all skill work in training? How do you build that sort of skill
Of
set as
course,
such?
it's skill because um, you have teammates, and without your teammates, you can't really train. So if I was to go in with like a vicious mindset like that into sparring sessions, then uh, people would get injured or I would get injured. So I focus mainly on the skill aspect of that, and then when I get into a fight, that's when um, the other side kind of comes in, the more vicious side of me, where I'm trying to actually break my opponent completely. Within the training room, I kind of use, I do it, but I do focus mainly on this skill.
It definitely makes sense to try and manage that because, like you said there, without the teammates, you can't then build on your skill set. You can't then expand further. And this is all that is really, though. It's still skill. As much as it is malicious, yes, it is nasty. It is skillful because if you weren't skillful, you'd be able to put the pressure on in the first place. Now, with
Yes.
the fight preparation itself, is that part of your initial game plan anyway? Is it something you would always do? Is just okay, I'll break you down one way or another? Is it just something you see an opponent you think is something you can exploit? Where does it come from, as such?
Yeah, 100%. It's I look to break my opponent in one way or another, and I'll try to do that. I try to dominate immediately, and then as the fight progresses, I can then see and find my ways of finishing the fight, and that's how I kind of approach the fight. Um, would you like to repeat the question so I can answer it if I didn't answer
Yes,
it?
sorry, I've asked one question, then turned to five questions, but yes. Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, obviously the way of doing it sort of varies. But is it something you see in past performances where you think, okay, this is something I can exploit, or is it just your general, okay, eventually I'll get them down anyway?
Yes, it comes with experience because going back to my amateur fights, I thought I think as an amateur, it's a stage for you to really find your style and explore different styles, and you're fighting against different styles. So I guess it's just building the experience and building your own style, and then imposing it onto your opponent.
Now, I like the way you're saying about imposing your style on an opponent because again, you get people who are
Yeah.
very much like trying to shut their game down, try not to deal with them as such. But it's good that the fact you got your focus on you. Now, in the sense with that, then, is that something you've had to learn the hard way in amateur? Is it something you've had to sort of, okay, I was too focused on an opponent before, now I've got to focus on me, or is it something you've naturally found works for you?
Yeah, to be honest, I naturally found that works for me. I don't focus on my opponents that much. I do a little bit, but I know that the fight is, as cheesy as this sounds, the fight is against yourself, because the fight is also outside of the cage when you're preparing. You know, you have to put in the hard work, and then once you get in there, you're confident and you can implement your style, rather than if you was to look at your opponent all the time, or like have a look and, oh, he does this good, he does that good, he does this good. You're gonna focus too much on what he does good, and when you come out there, you're gonna be a little bit tentative, or you're going to be waiting for him to use that on you. So I don't focus on my opponent that much. And with, you never know, with pullouts and things like that, you never know when an opponent can pull out, and all of a sudden the things that you've been working for 8 weeks, let's say, all of a sudden it changes, and then you can't do nothing really. So I focus on myself, and then I go in there with that kind of mentality.
And that again is so important, 'cause like you said in pullouts, because again you've got a whole, say, I don't know, like an anti-wrestling strategy, or like, you know, defensive grappling or whatever. You do all this perfect, you know, no Kimuras are going to get me, I'm sorted. Then okay, sick. What striker now? Now what?
Yeah,
It's just a bit like sick.
exactly. That's exactly what can happen. You know, they'll be like, "Oh, I have to avoid the takedown." They focus on the wrestling, or the whole camp, and the actual, and your opponent kind of starts finding ways of beating you in striking, and then you find yourself in this space where you haven't done enough of that to be confident enough to stand with them. So it's
Now,
this is a very difficult sport. So you, I think through experience, you just learn how to deal with those things.
now we take back to the training room there. So again, obviously you see the sort of styles you're trying to prepare against. Are you trying to beat people at their own game as such, or are you trying to do your style against theirs? So say if there's a kickboxer, would you then try and outstrike them, or would you just try and out wrestle them? What's your usual mentality when it comes to someone with a certain sort of style?
I kind of believe that I'm founded, and I am everywhere. So when someone says to me, "Oh, this guy is a kickboxer," or for a instance, my last opponent, Anthony O'Connor, I saw a little write up, because they did a write up about me, and then they did a write up again about him. They just made the statement of he's fighting a submission specialist. That's what they said, you know, and I'm like, you know, I don't care. I don't care if he's a submission specialist. If it goes to the ground, I'm confident enough that I can defend those submissions or submit him. So I don't get into the thing of, oh, he's a kickboxer or something. I just see him as another MMA fighter, and then uh, I go in there with my style, and I adjust. I adjust in the fight. I see where he's open. I see the mistakes he makes, and then automatically, to be honest, automatically, my kind of style adjusts to beat that person.
I love that Rob was wrong way, but yeah, I'm not gonna fucking get subbed. And this is an interesting thing in MMA as well, because you get
No,
people
no.
who are like, yeah, like, oh, I've got X amount of belts in jiu-jitsu, I'm this, that, and the other, I've got this skill set. And thinking, well, in those sports you do, but MMA you don't.
Yeah,
And this application again,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's the whole thing of people think I've done jiu-jitsu for X amount of years, I'm just gonna put on some MMA gloves, I'm sorted. No, 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 no. Have fun getting ground and powered, and then show
No.
me how your triangles work. That's how well you get with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It's a straight jiu-jitsu compared to MMA jiu-jitsu. As similar as it is, it's very different. If that makes sense. There's a lot of it, people being punched in the face on the ground. That's the main difference. You know, that's the main difference, that you can get punched in the face. So you're gonna start twisting for stuff, and all of a sudden you're gonna catch a hammer fist onto your face, and you all of a sudden let go. So um, it's a different, there is differences. That's why, like you said, if someone is some sort of black belt in jiu-jitsu, or like has crazy achievements, sometimes when they get in the cage, they can get submitted by a blue belt, and that's happened before, even in the UFC.
Hmm. Mighty Mouse, the best white belt in the world, I think. It does that quite a few times, some of the
Yeah,
black belts. And that's kind of the point, though. It's like, it's different. Because a huge thing that happens there is, for people who aren't familiar with this, if you're going for a submission in just grappling, you same thing you have to worry about. You're convicted, you're committed to what you're doing. If you start getting hit, you're like hesitant, and then you start doing hesitant submissions,
yeah,
half-ass stuff. And that's just when you get past, that's when you get smashed, and it just
yes.
gets worse and worse and worse. Fuck that. Royally fuck that.
Yeah.
Now, regards of your martial arts background, did you start MMA straight away, or were you other martial arts and then into MMA? How did you find that transition?
So when I came to this country when I was 11 in 2007, I believe, if I remember right. Um, yeah. So I did a bit of boxing at the beginning, um, but it wasn't long. It wasn't long. It was like maybe half a year, and then I did a little bit of judo, but it's at a very young age, so it's not necessarily at a high level or anything like that. So I did a bit of judo. I had the judo competition, and then I think I saw MMA. I've seen MMA before as a very young child. My dad put it on. I think it was Pride, and it was like Vanderlei Silva. And I kind of like, even when I was a very young kid, it kind of hooked me. And then when so after I did judo, I was watching some events, like some MMA events, and I thought, oh, I think I can do this. It's a very good challenge. So I started training twice a week at a gym in Hereford, and then all throughout the week I would do like weightlifting. This is at 15 probably. I did a bit of weightlifting, and then me and my brother, because we got in it at the same time, we bought the gloves, we bought pads, and we would watch like certain fighters, and then we would literally go out in the garden and then do some pads, and then we would end up sparring. And then whenever we would end up sparring, this is how it got. Um, we would literally spar, and then we would set a certain amount of rounds, and as we would spar, like just before the end, someone would get a good shot in, and then like I would say, oh nah, we're not done yet, and then we would keep sparring, and sometimes that would go for like 3 hours. We would spar for like 3 hours because we would not let each other like get a good shot last, and then we would just keep fighting. And then yeah, that kept going for a bit, until I got an apprenticeship, so I had enough money to go and train in Worcester every day. So we started going every day then.
I could imagine your rounds are like that now still. Like, okay, we've got
Yeah,
five fives in the
yeah.
clock. Oh.
Sometimes they are.
I mean, you fucking right. You stay right here. You put your hand on the foot in this tire.
Yeah,
We're getting comfy for 5 minutes. You ain't going
yeah.
anywhere, sunshine. And that's a point in itself. Like, how do you find switching off? Because again, being around your brother and training like full on all the time, do you find you can relax and take time away from it at all, or do you always just love being all around it all the time?
Uh, to be honest, I I just think about it all the time. I don't. I maybe sometimes I have to kind of take a break, because that's maybe a better way of doing things. But I find it very difficult. So after this fight, all my coaches and my brother, and I had back-to-back camps, and I kind of never stopped training. So after this fight, I'm like, everyone told me, like, take some time off, Mike. You need to take some time off. So I was planning on taking a week off, and then after I think it was about four days, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I start training, and I start getting back to the gym, because I just feel better when I'm training. I just feel better when I'm training. I'm doing something, you know. I went for a run this morning, just to go for a run. It's kind of, because this is the now it's going to be the next year is going to be the 10th year I've been in this sport. I kind of took it very seriously from the beginning. So my body kind of every day. So when I don't train, I kind of feel lazy, and I need to do something.
Well, this is kind of that balancing act of okay, you built the habits of training regularly, you built the habits of being switched on. There's a management of like, okay, I'm not having to do my sprints and heavy spars every day though. You can get your sort of skill work in. You can just be in the gym, be in
Yeah.
the environment, and that's
Yeah.
sort of the art of sort of making it sort of sustainable as such. Are you
Hmm.
confirmed for the next trilogy in March? Then is anything on
Yes.
the?
Yeah. I expect to be on there. Yes.
Oh,
So
exciting.
so does my brother. I believe we will be both on there.
Now, when you're both fighting on the same card, how are you with dealing with that? Do you watch each other's fights? Do you try and say, okay, my fight, my focus, and then regardless of their result, we'll talk about it afterwards? How are you with that?
It's uh, I'm kind of focused on my fight. My brother's focused on his fight, but within the camp, we kind of uh, yeah, we kind of we kind of train for the opponent, let's say, in some ways, and then on the actual days of the fights, we kind of separate where he's focused on his fight, I'm focused on my fight. And then let's say right before the fight, when we warming up and stuff, like my brother would be really focused on my fight to get me prepared, and then talk me through things. And then as soon as I finish, let's say, and I win the fight or whatever happens, I come back to the changing room, and I'm not like coming back celebrating or anything like that. I'm coming back and I'm like trying to stay focused as I can for him, get him warmed up and get him prepared, and then afterwards, after everything is done, then we kind of celebrate.
That must be so strange. Like, I'm so excited. I want to fucking celebrate. I fucking work. I got a win. I'm happy and buzzing. But now I've got to calm down. I've got to be focused. I've got to keep my head on. That was such
Yeah,
a
yeah,
strange sort of thing. You're like, Jack in the Box ready to explode.
yeah.
Like,
You
yeah,
just gotta do whatever is the best
oh, definitely.
for, and it's not only of course he's my brother, so I try to stay focused as much as I can, but it'd be the same with a teammate.
Mm.
If maybe it wouldn't be as much in terms of my nerves, I guess, because I do get really nervous when my brother fights, and I think it's the same for him. But you would do the same for your teammate. You're not going to come back into the changing room and go, oh my God, what a great fight I had, and start talking about yourself. There's still work to be done out in your team. So you kind of get back to that, and once everything is done, that's when you can celebrate.
It's good to having that sort of awareness of the environment around you, because again, it's sort of the whole thing of reading the room. Because like you've been to many, many fight shows, you know full well. Like if you're sat there warming up and people come in either celebrating or upset, you're thinking, okay,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
isn't great. I don't like that. I don't like that energy, because it makes either put pressure on you to do well, or things like shit, this could go wrong. You think, oh wait a minute, I know what I'm doing. I've been here before. But what the fuck is this
yeah.
energy? But yeah, it's good the fact you can think bigger picture with that. Now,
Yeah, to
when
be honest, when
gone.
I'm sorry, mate. When I'm in the changing room, I'm not like bothered about anyone. Like, let's say I'm getting ready just to come out. I don't care if someone is coming back and they lost the fight, as long as they're not from my team, And then even if they would be from my team, I would just have to keep my composure. It's all about just keeping composure and not kind of getting into a negative mindset. So I just focus on myself, make sure I do my job right.
And that is so important as well, having that overall composure. Because again, it's all well and good doing it for those 3 5s, but it's more than that. Like you're saying, the fight is done outside of the cage. It's everything.
Yes.
It's everything you do with this. Now, regards of your mentality from that side of things, and how have you sort of, is it something you've learned yourself? Something that's come quite naturally, something that's been, I don't know, taught to you? Because these sort of things are
Um,
very much like is learned things. It's not things that come naturally, I feel.
Yes, it happens through experience and through research, and through reading books. I read books on fighters, and other books that I've read. There's a lot of information out there that you can use. You gotta. This sport isn't just going out there and fighting. There's a whole lot behind it. A lot of it is mental as well. So you got to do your own research and find things out.
What sort of stuff do you read normally?
So I'm reading now the marvelous Marvin Hagler, his book.
Hmm.
I've also read Sugar Ray's book, uh, and then fighters. Tyson Fury's book. I read some of them which are very good, and I also read like the Book of Five Rings. Let's say, Art of War, things like that.
Okay, so is it more learning how they've handled situations themselves then and getting their sort of reference points? Because Tyson Fury's one's interesting one. I've read that one, and like his sort of emotions for different things. And again, obviously the depressions and this, that, and the other, but more the fight shows and the crowds and everything else, that sort of side of things.
Yeah.
Like, is it more reference points you're trying to get from it? Is it just enjoying the actual reading itself and see what you can learn? Are you looking for something in particular? What sort of thing do you want to look for, get from
Yeah.
these books?
Of course, yeah, I do take things from the greats, the people like Sugar Ray Leonard or Marvin Hagler, or I've read MMA fighters as well, like Uriah Faber and other books like that. But yeah, you got to kind of look at the greats. I look at the greats, and then I take things that kind of fit me, that suit me. I kind of take little bits from the greats, and then I adjust it into my own game, or um, yeah, I adjust it into my own game, and then I use it in my own way. however I understand it.
I like that a lot. The way you can interpret the information given to you, because again, if you take it very much as read, literally as read, it's very much okay. This is what Tyson Fury did, but that doesn't mean anything. But this is how I can then
Yeah.
apply what he's learned and how he can. Yeah, I like that a lot. Now, regards of going to them for their reference points, is it something that's been recommended to you? Is it something have you always been a reader?
I have not been a reader all my life, to be honest, but as I'm like growing up, I've basically realized that there's so much knowledge out there. There's so much knowledge out there for myself, and then just apply it in my own ways to myself. And a lot of it is uh, what's the word I'm looking for is it's some of those stories are similar to yours, you know. uh, of course not in every detail, but you can kind of gauge how people
Mm.
handle situations in their life, and how they overcome it, and then they become great, and what kind of things they got through in life. So if you have some hardship in your life, you can kind of see that these people have gone through that as well. It's not like it was just smooth sailing all the way from the beginning.
I mean,
And I
that's
guess
gone.
that's the people that interest me the most. It's the people who uh, came out from the bottom, you know.
And that's where things like the archetypal stories are so important. Those sort of the not the template, but the structure of a story, like where things like the adversity, the other things outside external factors, that kind of thing. You think, okay, how do they manage that? How can they resolve these situations? To say, I don't know, you've got a camp, but your girlfriend wants to spend more time with you, your family got bills to pay, that kind of stuff. And you think, okay, how can I manage
Yeah,
these situations? Then you hear, okay, that's a relationship issue that's been faced by, I don't know, Marvin Hagler, for example, I don't know. And then say, okay, we had to compromise for camps and
yeah,
afterwards we did something else afterwards. Something like that. Something a bit more, okay, I get the gist of where they've solved their problems, where they've seen these issues. And that is always an interesting one. So regards of like, when it comes to your off camp, out of season sort of thing, do you do much for a camp in itself opposed to normal training? Or is it like the Chael Sonnen thing of, camps for kids, I train every day sort of thing?
yeah. I'm like, to be honest, I'm in camp all year round, but I'm starting to find that I need to adjust my training so that I so let's say I learn more out of camp, and then in camp I prepare a lot. So I prepare my body. To go thing for me to do, because I want to train hard all the time, and I want to like I want to pushing, you know, and that's where kind of the experience comes in, where you have to learn how to take it easy on some days, and focus on drilling and technique, and some days you go really hard on, and that's what I'm kind of working on.
And that's where it gets so important, having that sort of balance, as you were saying earlier in this, when it comes to wanting to go back to back camps and just constantly being so involved in it and having to learn not to switch off as such, but at least turn it down a bit to try and like, okay, this is my time to recover because otherwise I'll just get sick and get injured and then, I have to take time
Yeah,
off. And no one wants that. No one wants that at all. Now, regards of, you say you don't
yeah.
study your opponents, but do you watch tape in general? Do you want to just watch the upcoming cards, the UFCs and stuff for research? Or do you just focus on your own fight and your own
I
training?
watch. Uh, uh, so you said that basically, do I research my opponent? How often do I watch him? Yeah.
No, no, just in general. So, like you say, you're not one for focusing on your opponent too much, but do you watch just normal cards with
Yeah.
maybe not even potential opponents just for research or just for fun? Do you just watch fights
Yes, for
anyway?
research, for fun. I don't watch normal TV. Sometimes I'll put a movie on or something like that, but mainly this is where my girlfriend gets a bit assy when she comes over, because I'm like, if she ain't putting something on, I'm putting fights on. You know, I'll get those fights in straight away. She's like, "Oh man, fights!" And to be fair, she does watch them with me as well, so it's quite
It kind
good.
of
But
has to.
yeah, yeah.
Should start reading. This is it. I mean, this is where you sort of have to get a balance. Now, do you watch all disciplines, or do you just watch MMA? Do you watch grappling at all?
I do. I watch all disciplines. Yeah, all disciplines, but mainly MMA. Of course, I watch mainly MMA fights. Then probably in second place, I watch boxing, and then grappling. Um, yeah. That's probably it.
So with the what you're watching there as well, is it something you do you ever like watch like a notebook like side by, for example, say, okay, oh, I like the way he did that switch or like the way he did that setup for combinations, or is it just mental notes like regards of you're seeing these things because again this is essentially sparring without you taking any injuries. You're watching the feedback and the back and forth as such. Do you think that do you make any notes when you're watching these fights?
More of mental notes because I watch them. I watch certain fights many times, so I kind of just see things and then I kind of go through them in my mind and how I can apply them to my style. Like I said before, I would watch some greats or very good fighters, and I would take some bits from their game and then add it into mine, and then go into sparring or something and try things out and see how that goes. And then see how I feel doing those things. It's all about really how I feel doing them. It's not like I'm gonna see spinning like some crazy spinning kick, and then I'll
Raymond
just go
Daniels
in and
shit.
start throwing that when certain things don't suit me or I just won't use that. It's like things you grab onto with your eyes that you feel like suit your style, I guess.
Never say never. I'll see you doing some Raymond Daniels shit one day. You never know, mate. You never
Yeah, yeah. I do get some spinning kicks in there. I do get some spinning kicks in there, so but not
That's
some like crazy ones. Maybe I will do. Maybe I will do.
hey, one spinning kick is one spin away from doing a 360. Then you keep going and keep going and keep going. That's all you need. Just keep spinning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You might take off like a helicopter, but it's
yeah.
another
That's it.
conversation. Now, before I let you go, my friend, any sponsors you want to shout out? Social medias, where can people find you?
Sponsors to shout out is PNS Decorations and Octagon Injury Clinic. These guys take care of my physiotherapy and my body in general. And my whole team, to be honest, my whole team who've helped me so much during the camps, and that's it, to be honest. And yeah, my whole team.
And your social media?
Social media is Mike Fig MMA. That's for Instagram, and then Mike Figlak on Facebook.
Be sure to check that out, everyone, and also check out our sponsors, the English Hypnotist, Rieco Clothing, and the People's IT, and Fisticuffs _podcast on all social medias.